quick, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're good to go.
Just like, go ahead and call the meeting in order. One thing, when we're in a setting, would be everybody needs to wear a mask. So meeting even over this distance, what's happening throughout the rest of the county.
You'd like those of us within 6 feet of each other to put masks on, I think you said.
Practice what we preach.
Did you use the
They're
mic?
close to 60.
If you'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes, Jerry?
Okay, do we have a motion to approve July 19th?
I'll make the motion.
Second, Dick. Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, we have a presentation, discussion, items for solid waste capital project and facility project updates with CMS companies. 20 minutes.
Who's first?
We can't hear with the link.
You're back here.
We don't know what you're saying.
We have a presentation.
This is the wrong agenda. Let me go get you. That's from last month.
Okay,
Here,
sorry, I got inferior information.
You know, he's hard to understand.
We have a little bit more core. Presentation and discussion item, capital project update, bid process discussion, CNF engineers, 20 minutes.
Great. Can I approach that here?
Sure.
Put my mask on. Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, my name is Patrick Courier from CNS Company. For anybody here that doesn't know me, I've got it here. I'll just kind of pass it around. Can you hand that one up to Joan?
Back down.
I got some extras here. Anybody else?
Legislator too.
Yes, yes. Well, I didn't add on what's going on.
Well, I thank you.
No, I'll send a digital copy of this also to Ryan for distribution to all the legislators. Just to bring you an update on the agenda, or the status of the project, I'll go through the agenda here, and then we'll go on to talking about the actual bidding of the project. I'm sorry, I get claustrophobic with this thing. I met with Mike and Alexa Water, Jackie Mahoney, and Tim and Ryan regarding outdoor services just last week. We went down through that. Everything's looking pretty good there. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but feel free to look through it. Side of the package here, and it shows a few minor modifications we just made as we were looking back over the plans. What we're doing now at this point is we're starting to pick interior finishes for the building. We're looking at sustainable materials. I've been working with all the different departments on the materials, but including Matt O'Connor, and also so that we can come up with a cohesive plan, more or less, for not only this project, but ties into, Lewis County buildings and grounds all together. Try to keep everything as, maintenance free as possible and durable and longevity. Been also working with Tim Hunt quite a bit as we're moving through the construction documents for the wash bay building, the new highway garage, and the existing highway garage renovations. There's a few open items here and there, but nothing major. We've pretty much got the construction of everything figured out. Now we're down to finer details. Human Services Building, we just had one of our architects up here last week that's focusing more on the casework and the interior finishes over there. So we met with all the different departments and started talking about all those items. We're looking at the top of the building. We talked to Matt O'Connor a little bit about that, and as far as being able to provide heating, ventilation, and air conditioning to the whole building, which will be a ducted system. The simplest way would be to have those dispersed evenly on the roof. We'll be adding a new water service for a sprinkler system for the building. The domestic water services there now isn't sufficient to also sprinkler the building. The maintenance building we're just getting started on because we were holding off because of board elections. So we kind of got a late jump on the DSS building and the maintenance building behind it. Because we weren't sure what's going to happen with board of elections, but then we got to a point where we've moved through that, and hopefully everything shakes out well with the board of elections one way or another. But the maintenance building now will be just the shop as we had in our concept report, but there won't be the wing on the side for the election machines and so forth. Let's see what else we got here.
The outdoor services facility, I'm drawing a blank on, we rename that.
Yes, I'm sorry. And that's what we're calling the existing highway garage, just outdoor services, which entails, in going back to a little more background information on that, we've got soil and water in there, and we also have Parks and Rec in there, and then we had a small space carved out for USDA, and I think Ryan and Joan are working on possibly responding to a RFP that came out publicly from USDA as far as leasehold space, and probably be talking to legislators more on that as they move forward. I would imagine, just from talking to Ryan and getting a brief conversation, that's something that's going to take several months to find out if and what they do.
So I give a brief update on the USDA. Their federal office of leasing management is requesting 2,500 square feet. We cannot accommodate that in our system. They only have 3 employees that are there about part-time. So what we'd like to designate for them is if they're willing to accept that with shared conference space, with shared bathrooms, hallways, then we could, make it work. But I'm also not super interested in spending a lot of money setting up a space that is subject to RFP of federal, procurement. So either they're with us and we're gonna set some things up for them, or they're not and they're on their own, which they very well may be on their own because their federal procurement might not be flexible enough to say, yep, we'll do 500 square feet at this price and get it designed for us. They might not be able to. So Joan has been working with the federal folks, I've been working with the local folks, and we're trying to make things work. But either way, if they're with us, they're gonna be with us at 500 square feet, not 2,500 square feet, so.
Thank you, Ryan. On the DSS building, also we did talk to Matt a little bit, looked at a couple options for the maintenance shop because there's just one bathroom there, single toilet and sink. We were looking at potentially just putting a small septic system behind the building. Our engineers at CNS suggested that we tie it into the municipal system. It's kind of the best way to go. It's about an extra $12,000, but it's not that much money. And then we looked at both options, and that's where we're headed right now is to tie in. We'll have to circle around the back parking lot that's there now to get over to the east side of the building, opposite the entrance to tie in. So it's a ways around, but it's all just piped, and then just patching the lawn back in. So it's really not that big of a deal. It's just kind of a far way away. I've got 2 full-size sets of drawings here. I'm going to leave one with Ryan and one with Matt O'Connor. There's 110 drawings in here at this point. There'll be more as we keep moving through construction documents. I can bring more sets if you need more, just let me know. I can send I'm not very good with links and all that stuff, but like I can have an admin person send Ryan a link where you can download it from our system.
It's on the table in my office right now, so anytime anybody wants to stop it and flip through, and we'll also too.
Yeah, so feel free to do that. And if you need more copies or anything specific or certain pages that you'd like, let me know that too. With certain pages, it's easy enough to send it as a PDF, and you can even have it printed in one of your departments here if needed be, but it's coordinated pretty well. My schedule is the same as I met with you there a month ago. Go.
Yeah, I noticed up here that you're talking about the septic system and that you only have 1 bathroom. Did you consider having 2 so you'd have it as a no bathroom type of situation? I've seen this turn into a mess over time in the home.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally maybe that you could. There's what, a few, I don't know how many people work out of the maintenance shop.
Yeah, there's only 5 to 6 people during the day, so there shouldn't. And we can make it a unisex bathroom if we need to.
I can look at that. It's not very
There's
big
much
building.
money, it solves a lot of problems on the road, and they're starting to have more ladies, if you will, working with heavy equipment, doing plows and
Yep.
everything else. There's BOCES is training and what have you. I saw one on television just the other night. Some of the towns now have them, so.
Yeah.
And I think the regulation is 5 or more employees. It hasn't been changed, that you need one anyhow.
I'll double check that, but I think it's right around that 5 mark.
I just offered for thoughts.
You're talking about the other services building?
Oh, no, maintenance, he's talking about the actual maintenance shop. So, I can look at that. It's not a big deal to add another one. It just seems overkill for the size of the building, number of people there. What we did do in DSS is change from going with game toilet rooms to unisex. And there's a total of maybe like 7 or 8 of them, I think, in the building now. In the proposed floor plan that we have, I think there was a sketch of that in the last meeting. That's a small sketch rather than the big drawings. But the concept there, once again, is, if you've got 3 single bathrooms right next to each other, one's locked, you just use one of the other ones.
But that's not in this building here. This building-
Not in this one, no, in the DSS building itself.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about-
No, I know, I'm unisex toilets. And I guess there's 3 people in the building, so nobody's using it, and someone else, they're either going to go into the DSS building.
I'm not saying I disagree, I'm just saying I've seen the problems on the road.
Yep, no, that's good.
Discuss it, we can.
Look, for the low cost to pay back to back.
Yep.
You're gonna stop everything
Oh,
off.
that's what I thought, yeah.
Let's get a price for it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about the price either. It just, it chews up a little bit of 50 square feet of the floor space, but that's, so I'm not opposed to it at all. We've got janitor's closet there too that we can tie into. And if we're tying into the municipal system, it's not gonna change the pipe, it'll probably be a 4-inch pipe. So, but well noted. And, I'll talk more about that with, everyone. And then construction phase, we've still got the, construction, proposed to start in April. With lead time of items, at worst case scenario, we might need to bump a month or so, but I'm hoping that by the time we get to the point at the beginning of next year, that the lead time on some of these items will get back under control, depending on what goes on this winter with production in places. But we saw at one point, because of the pandemic, is the production schedule just went from the typical of 8 weeks to over 16 weeks and 20 weeks. Now it's leveling off, so we'll just hope for the best on that. And I've got some more information about the bidding process, but any questions on anything with the updated so far.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Why did you choose the rooftop for these?
Our mechanical engineers, we got together with Matt O'Connor and discussed different options for the systems. So we looked at several different systems, and I can get you a better description of that.
I'm gonna look at the maintenance aspect of it. The rooftop's gonna take a much harder beating in the wintertime. Or
We
for
looked
this
at,
area.
we looked at
especially.
even putting them on the ground, and then we were concerned about snow drift coming off the roof and so
But you
forth.
can protect them with a simple, you know, shelter, you know.
Yeah, just around them. I don't want to speak too much on that subject here, but we talked about the different options and on the ground, on the roof, and we reviewed all those options in a Zoom call. I sat down with Corey and Matt and myself over at the DSS building, and we zoomed in with our mechanical engineers back in Syracuse, and that's how we came up with them. This is why I put this stuff into
Was there a
the.
price difference?
The price difference, I don't think was too much difference. It's less expensive to go on the roof because then we don't have to build a roof shelter around it.
But the maintenance cost of it's more. It's a harder fix on the roof than it is on the ground.
Yeah.
You can get at the one on the ground a lot easier.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm just looking at it from a ease of maintenance, because you know you're gonna have maintenance here.
Yeah.
So,
So, we gave the options and it was decided to go on the roof. If you'd like it on the ground, we'll do it that way.
that would make that decision.
It was a joint decision between our engineers and Matt O'Connor. But I mean, I'm more than welcome to open it up to discussion to anybody else that would like to, decide. Or we could even schedule a time with our mechanical engineers to discuss it with the focus group. I just don't want to get too far into the weeds on it because it's not my area of expertise.
This is the DSS building now.
Yes,
Are they gonna have one control, or is each unit gonna have its own separate control?
there be a control system, and I think we may have already sent it to Matt.
I haven't seen any.
I didn't send it yet, but Lloyd did send it to me showing the different areas of controls. And it was broken, I don't even want to say how many areas, it was broken down into. But there was, I'm going to say, let's just say 6 to 12. There was more, it was split up by, like, I know that along Stowe Street, we talked about 5 or 6 of those rooms being one zone. So we do have a zone plan that I can share with whoever would like to see it. Right now it's at a sketch level where we can alter it if needed be. But I just came up with this towards the end of last week, me, and I was going to send it on to Matt. I haven't sent it yet. I can copy it in. Ryan, he can distribute it to. You've got your next legislative meeting will be coming up soon too.
October 5th.
So I guess with that being said, do we want to create a focus group to talk more about this, or do we just want to keep moving in the direction that we had decided with the rooftop?
What's the committee want to do?
I'd like, before I make that decision, I'd like to look at your plans, and I'll do that in the next day or two.
Okay.
There's-
We could do,
Keep people comfortable. That size area with just 3 points of contact, they sometimes fight each other, that's why that's the question for your mechanical people.
we could do a deeper dive with Patrick for those that are interested,
Yeah.
trying to go through the plans page by page. It'd take us a few hours, but for the group that's interested in that, that's not a problem. We can do that.
But how's your availability looking as far as?
Day to day, just let me know.
Okay, we'll set something up.
I'll coordinate something, if that's something you're,
I guess I really, either way, I'll say it the way I feel. We hire a good engineering firm, they've got the expertise, and I think they're gonna steer us in the right direction. I don't have the expertise, but we can look at it. I see grates, being on the ground and stuff like that, but I also see rooftop for some reason is they usually stay clean. So I guess I'll listen, participate, but I mean, I'm not bringing enough people to make a decision. I just believe that the people who get us the right information.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I have not been involved in those level of decisions. That's been between Matt and mechanical engineers.
Yep.
Like Jerry said, I would have even less to add.
So let's do this, let's set up a Zoom meeting within the next. If we get a few people on that are interested in commenting on it, it'd be our engineers, myself, Matt O'Connor, and a couple of legislators. Then, we just do it and we all decide as a group. And that's really what the point of this meeting is today. There's a way we could flip through 110 drawings. So I'd like to try to point out the systems to everyone here so that if there are questions, I'd rather have them come up now than after we did this out, somebody come on and say, why we got this or that, So,
Matt's got a question.
oh, go ahead.
So I just wanted to make a statement about putting the units on the roof are industry standards. It happens throughout the entire North Country. We have several here in the county already. We don't have any issues with them. And so it's easier ductwork design, putting the units on the low side of the building where there's a definite snow drifting condition. We have to add fill and sidewalks to get to the units. It comes down to an aesthetics thing as well, looking at, units that are the size of a car or a bit larger, outside your office window. So if those units are on the roof, they're smaller units, there's more of them, and it's easier to lay out the ductwork and airflow.
What we can do, Patrick, is make a list of all the things that folks are interested in and kind of go through with a little more detail.
Yeah.
That would work.
I haven't looked at the building, but I see Dick's point, so, there's probably gonna be doors on breaking off each air conditioner unit. So in other words, the air is not going to trap there. They're gonna have their own area that they're responsible for. It's not gonna be open all the way.
And actually, each of those units covers several different zones.
They're still isolated into, say, 5 different departments.
Yes.
Up one
Yeah.
row.
Yeah, there may be DSS on one side of the building.
2 and 3.
Yeah.
I do know what we put in there where Matt can control it, just like we did here.
We open windows here today, and they're gonna not have opening windows up there.
Correct.
Well, if we had this building to build over again, these wouldn't be opening either. And it's kind of like this, is with this building, we do have some more stuff we could do. I don't know what it's gonna run, but we really need to consider actuators in here to help control a little bit better. Well,
And a good point on the windows too is, that's something that I brought up to all the departments also, just that they would know, so that no one even as small as your community services group, which is one person, so she didn't get in there and find out, well, my window doesn't open. So Jenny's aware of it, in all the different departments. They basically said, if you feel, meaning our buildings and grounds people and legislators are comfortable with it, and the engineers, if you feel that having solid windows so people aren't opening them up, you're getting the humidity in and throwing off the balance of everything, they were all fine with it too. So my effort is to really keep everybody in the loop, and if we need specific meetings, that's what we'll do.
probably what we ought to do is set some time to start looking through those drawings. And that'll bring our questions up before.
And keep in mind on the DSS building, there isn't going to be a lot on there for the mechanical systems at this point.
Right.
Because we had to start that late because of board of elections. So, it's kind of a progress set, so it's not going to tell you everything that's there, but like a Zoom call to discuss some of these, even if it's not roof or ground, if it's more of controls and so forth, we are trying to tie into similar systems than you've been using currently. And so we are working closely with Matt to make sure that, the systems that we're specifying are going to be similar to.
So I'll work with Patrick. We can set up an afternoon for whoever's interested and just have your electrical, mechanical, all the different people run through the different buildings, the different things, and, make sure everybody's comfort level is where we need it to be.
Yeah.
Because once we go out to bid, this stuff is done. So
I think we need that meeting though to have a specific, even if it's more than one meeting, like as people come up with other questions, if it be, let's just say outdoor lighting, is it, going to be censored, by daylight, or is it off of one of those clocks, worldwide satellite clocks or whatever they call them, that updates for daylight savings time and all that, so yeah, if you have any general questions, we can break down little, smaller group meetings where somebody might, somebody else may have more of a concern about a different aspect of the project. And if these small group meetings can be, 4 or 5 people that say ultimately these 4 or 5 people are going to make a decision on the, rooftop or ground for the mechanical systems.
how does that sound? Can we just do a couple of sessions with Patrick, go through things, and then if there's any more specific questions, we can engage some of the other mechanical, electrical folks?
Well, no, it'll be with my mechanical people, like the one on the, DSS building, but like rather than get all of our engineers together and go through the whole thing is,
We'll pull some stuff together.
We need to look at stuff first, or it'll be a. Basement meeting too,
Okay.
so.
look through the stuff and then we'll set up, group
I'll
meetings.
send out the link, so you all have it on your iPads, and also the drawings are in my office right now, so.
Back in the bathroom for just a second for that maintenance building, I'm a little concerned that putting 2 bathrooms in a 1,000 square foot building that has maybe 1 or 2 guys up there 3-4 hours a day, even if we do have a female employee, I would think that a single bathroom would be more than adequate, for what that building's gonna be utilized for. It's just I'm just concerned with the public perception. If we put 2 bathrooms in there, it's just gonna make it look like we're building a grandiose structure for minimal use.
Don't look more like we've got the right mix or gender unknowns in the future, so.
It's the gender and, it's
You're talking a few
it's
$100.
just like home
for
if
the
you got
light.
1 bathroom.
Yeah, but you
You're
gotta
pacing
maintain
around waiting for someone to finish before you can use it, so.
and be
Under,
maintained.
Commercial construction, we put in a bathroom in our office years ago and, commercial construction here. I don't want to throw a dollar amount right now, but anything you add, is quite a bit more money than just adding a bathroom to your house. Your prevailing wage rates and commercial equipment and all that. So, I'm not going to throw out a cost of how much, but it's doubling your cost of what the bathroom is now. Well, not quite doubling because it's right there, but you're still, from a contractor standpoint, this is how these things go from up to the dollar amount I already gave you for the project is they climb. Do we want to make a decision on that right now, or do you want me to look at further? No,
So
look at
as
further.
the rest of the DSS building and everything, you made the 1 bathroom decision with the people who will be working there, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what they,
And that's what was in our original concept report that was, reviewed by the whole legislative and approved is 1 bathroom in the maintenance shop building. Yeah. So,
We weren't even gonna put 1 in there.
originally we weren't because we got to
We're
cut,
gonna make them walk across the hall.
we got to cut across. Okay, great. Well, moving on, anything else according to the updates? Or come back to that. And then the other thing is, at the last meeting, August 17th, I was asked to, put together a pros and cons for bidding the project out in multiple projects. As of right now, we're looking at it as a single project broken down into multiple primes in accordance with New York State WICS law. we would have a GC, contract with a general contractor. We have a contract with plumbing, electrical, and mechanical. So we're going to be signing 4 contracts with 4 separate contractors as one project. As we break that down, the further down we go, if we break it into 2, 3 projects, ultimately you could have as many as 8, 12, 16 different contracts. There's someone, there was a board had requested that I get an evaluation, or just a letter from Trophy Point. And I'll hit on a couple of my high points here. Thank you. So, yeah, so we were looking at, pros and cons, and to bid as I already mentioned, the further you break it down, the more contracts you could have. For the reasons below, CNS team has requested Trophy Point. He says, bid the Lewis County as multiple primes would be responsible for renovating the existing buildings, to provide comparative assessment requested by CNS, compile the following list of pros and cons. And I'm not going to read down through this whole thing, but you can look more at it. Pros for a single project approach, minimizing the general conditions. Option 2 being breaking it down, would present possibility of multiple different project managers and superintendents with their respective supporting administrative teams, project engineers, construction administrators on site simultaneously. There's going to be a lot more people in the mix for you to deal with the more you break it down. Potential for more attractive bid pricing is a single project. You've got greater buying power associated with constructing the whole thing together. Larger companies going to be able to, get access to the materials easier. They're probably even going to be able to put more pressure on their suppliers to get it sooner than smaller contractors. Less administrative burden for the owner. This approach reduces potential administrative burden associated with contract development and management. Further items such as even MWBE, now instead of trying to follow the MWBE utilization just for a contractor, trying to follow for multiple. Less administrative burden for the architect, engineer, or us to bid it as one project rather than multiple, and focusing on working with just one contractor and staying on them on a daily basis to make sure they're on track with the schedule and budget. Consistency across selected hardware, as I mentioned a while ago with mechanical systems. Making sure if we break it into multiple mechanical contractors, we may have one putting in certain items over here, different ones over in another building. Cons of a single approach project, achieving county goals. If the county has an interest in it, see more companies potentially participate in bidding. So if you wanted to see, this broken down to where you could get more people in, smaller contracts, then that could be a con to, or pro or con, I guess, to, your desired outcome. Undesirable contractor, in a situation where less the desirable contractor is successful with a low bid, single project approach. So what they're saying here, I guess, is if it is a single project bid, those are the 4 contractors to get. So I think that's kind of one of those things where you're rolling the dice no matter what. Whoever we get is who we're going to get, and we've got to, work well with them as part of life. And you just, you get through it. Less attractive to certain bidders. Certain contractors may be capable of supporting the individual projects projects, but not, being able to, do a whole project. So, that was kind of a lot to go through, but gives you the gist of it. Easier to discuss than read probably. So going back to the beginning is, it was our concept there to submit it as pull everything together into one project with the mechanical, general construction, plumbing, electrical contractor, and there's 4 contracts for the county just to sign.
Committee, any comment?
Patrick, when would you start wanting to start putting those bidding documents together? Maybe that'll help the
Yeah.
committee.
So, right now, we've got everything set up on the drawings there, that I gave Ryan in the map today. Everything's set up as one project. If needed be, we could separate it out into multiple. But the sooner the better. As far as, I do need to get together with Ryan and Joan at some point, talk about front-end documents also for bidding. Which some of that will vary depending on how many contracts we have, how many bid forms in the front end and some of the other requirements that go along with that. But as far as knowing, how many projects, it's great if we could determine that today. That's why we kind of postponed it last month to today. I'm action oriented. I like to kind of try to keep things chopped off our list because our list is going to grow over the next few months. That's why I'm proactive as far as getting that Zoom meeting for the mechanical systems so that we can say, hey, we all made a decision together, and as some other items come up, which they will, we'll set up separate for those. So if we could do it today, it would be great.
What's committee's thoughts?
Sounds good to me, doing the single project approach, take the recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, the ask for complaint, this is the recommendation, and I say that we go with it.
The more contractors you got, they all got it in their face, but it also makes a nightmare out of the project as well. If they don't all get along.
I know.
Some places, the electrician's running wires that the mechanical guys don't want to use, and vice versa. So now you got 2 tradesmen right in the same area tracking. I think the local contractors now around here, we've got maintenance and repair contractors. We've got people who bid out the bigger projects. So Drum puts a lot of projects up. And then the contractors locally still bid them. They work for the prime.
Yeah.
So,
They can still be involved.
they still probably be involved. I can see the other side of it, but
Bill, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are get as many local contractors as we can, as I expressed before.
Tom?
I can see both directions. I like the idea of one individual contractor, ease of working and handling the whole thing, but if you can get separate ones to save some money and I'm torn. Well, I'm gonna state it the way I said it before. It shouldn't be one contract, it should be 2, at minimum 2. Because it's DSS and it's highway. They're totally different projects. Highway's a totally different beast than rebuilding DSS. So they should be bid separately. And they will get I think we get better pricing. You can leave all the stuff at highway in one bid, the wash station and the highway cold storage. But DSS is a separate entity, so.
Well, I like what Phil said. I do like local contractors working, if that would work. I don't know how well that will work.
Larry?
I can see the point both ways. I'm leaning towards a single contractor because I think that the GC is going to sub it out to all the local subcontractors anyhow, so I think they will have an opportunity to participate, maybe more to a larger degree if it's one contract, because, you know, they're gonna need to diversify those subcontracts. So I think, you know, the pros and cons from an outside opinion, I lean towards that way, I guess. Keep in mind that the elections will be a separate contract, right?
From what now?
The Board of Elections addition will be bid separately.
Or is it separate or?
I would say so, yes, at this point. We've got it, I would keep everything pushing in the direction we're going right now, because you've still got some issues to work out with Board of Elections, not issues, but logistics with Board of Elections. And then it's gotta be designed and put out to bid. I wouldn't wanna slow down the process of this project that we've already put in front of the legislative body, for that. In there is a separate component that could go to a whole set of other contractors. But just to clarify, make sure everybody understands, because I was listening to each of the individuals, and all good input. A few people had mentioned single contract. So it's still going to be 4 contractors, even as a single project. You have to divide. And I did recently, I was talking to Todd McAleese. I'm not sure if he lives in Lewis County, T-Mac. Team Mechanical? Chase's Lake? Yeah. So I was talking to him, it's just him and his son, I just finished a project with them. And even though this is a $16.5 million project or whatever, I don't have the exact number of the construction number in front of me. He's interested in tackling it.
He did the projects in Watertown, a lot of the housing stuff, and what have you down there. He was able to be competitive and complete the work.
You know, even though the project from a dollar point sounds really large, him and his son can come in there and rough in the plumbing in a week for a highway garage under slab. And then the rest, you've got your GC coming in doing all the work. And then they call them back, somebody's gonna let them know, we'll have a master schedule that says 3 months from now, we need you to come back in and start for 2 months roughing and plumbing above ground. So you do your underground rough in is a week, you do your above ground rough in, you might have a month there, and then you walk away to another job, you come back and you do your finished fixtures. Going back to your point, it is like being a grade school teacher for us, because you've got to just keep communicating. Every day when I'm driving in my car, I've got my Bluetooth on and I'm saying, hey, you know, they're going to need you here tomorrow, because the GC says, hey, I'm going to put up sheetrock tomorrow. He pushes the hell out of the electrician to show up. They show up over the weekend or something, they get all the electrical done. Next thing you know, one day comes, the electrician's like, where's the sheetrocker? And he's like, they're not coming today. He's like, I worked to get that.
And then you get the delay costs if the guy doesn't.
Yeah. So it's a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work no matter what.
Between the one project and what have you, if you look at the construction here, phase 1 is April 22 to October 22.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 2, which is outdoor services, is October, and then phase 3, which is DSS, is September.
Yeah.
So whoever gets the April 1st contractor for GC, he's gonna be the others that are already bid.
No, these are all, when I say phases, so it's all one contract or one project with 4 prime contractors. But what we did was we didn't want to set this up to where the contractor goes into the DSS building on April 1st of 2022 and spends a whole year in there. You know, so we phased it to say, and this will be in the bid documents, and this goes back to trying to, you know, deal with 4 contractors instead of multiple, is this is your time period to be in the DSS. And I've talked to Jenny all along on this and said, you know, we'll need you out of there in August. We turn the place over to them. And the reason we picked September, and I work with our construction management department, is to try to get the outside walls torn down and reframed, and new window openings and closed in before the weather gets bad. And then they can work on that throughout the winter. Now, this schedule, we can't control. We can control the start of the project and the end of the project. We can't control so much of the actual, we can give them parameters, but we can't tell them that you have to do.
You control the start, the end might be a little tricky.
It's a little tricky, but we can give them that, and we give them some parameters that says, we don't want you to start the DSS building until you've gotten everything ordered, and you can go in there, get in, get out.
But that's still a pretty good timeframe, even doing that.
Yes.
So you mentioned Board of Elections, so where are they going then? They're not going to DSS now?
They're not.
We're gonna talk about
We're
that.
gonna talk about that a
That's
little
gonna be
later.
handled executive session, I think, right?
I see both sides and stuff like that, but, I like the bidding them all as one person that we answer to and subcontractors. I mean, hopefully there'll be some local ones and stuff like that. But if you're trying to tie that together, I mean, I can see some advantages and disadvantages. We want these people when we start to get in there, get the projects done in a timely fashion. I mean, I visualize if we do one and they pick the other for mechanical, electrical, and stuff like this. I mean, essentially, each contractor is gonna be able to keep his people busy. Because if they're up at DSS working, when they're done, say concrete, this, that, if they got concrete work, they'll go down to another job and start pouring there. I mean, we've seen it happen up there on our transfer site. I mean, the guy's been there, helped out, electricians come in, and essentially what happened is, the guys only put 2 people there because of the time frame, the way it works. So he's been doing other stuff, back in, quarters, this, that. And, because that one was spread out so far, it was kind of more major. I mean, if you combine it, I just think there'll be savings.
We get local contractors on this.
JCC,
One, yeah.
Lawman Heating and Cooling, the
We had a number
the
of.
general contractor was out of Adams Center.
Electrical guys were from Turin.
Yep,
A lot of it depends the size of the project, if the locals are gonna be capable of handling it.
so,
And even right down to your painters, most GCs don't do their own painting anymore. They're going to take whoever is reputable, that gives them the best cost. So realistically, no matter how you slice this, you can't control who it gets awarded to anyways, because it's a government job and it's going to be based on price. The GCs are going to go out there and contact everybody they can that does painting, floor finishes, and they're going to take whoever gets them the best price. So the flooring contractor, we're never going to know until it's bid out. We don't know, exactly who's going to bid on it. I mean, I've seen that change where somebody says they'll bid on it today, and next month they get a job that's going to take them the next 2-3 years, and they're not bidding on it.
But it takes all their bonding.
Yeah, and takes their bond.
That's the
Yes.
thing that people don't understand, that you gotta be bonded for these.
Yeah.
And you wanna carry a $25 million bond, that costs you some money.
And it's easier for a painter to work as a sub and not have to deal with the bonding, all that, smaller contractors. I think you'll see the contractors look for the closest people that are available and the people that can price it the best, which is a benefit to the community, to the taxpayers.
So is there any further discussion?
Were you looking for a decision on that, Patrick?
If we could. Any decisions I can get as we go along is just one more thing off our list that we can move on to other stuff.
So what's committee? Or do
can I weigh in on just a small item? Whatever the board decides we'll work with, the idea of managing 16 contracts scares me. That is a lot. Even if our next discussion is about a project manager, that's still a lot. So I I understand all the arguments and staff will obviously handle whatever you guys decide, but that is a number that is a little intimidating to me.
So we'll put that in the pros.
Well, I mean, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we do one general contractor for the project.
I'll second that motion.
And then for the other.
It'll be, just for clarity, because of tomato, and semantics, I guess the motion would be that there's one project, which is 4 primes. There'll be a GC, mechanical, plumbing, electrical. So I even, once in a while, start saying contracts. We're suggesting one project, which is 4 contracts.
It's gonna be so much easier to keep track of.
I think it will.
But you imagine this all going on, and then you've got to keep track of where they're at, what they're doing, each individual. This way we get them in, it'll fall into place, I really. And hopefully that we got locals that are able to get some of these jobs, because they've got the capability. I think we got it. Anyways, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Great. That's all I had for you today. We'll coordinate the Zoom meeting and, anything else, questions, anything?
Yeah, I guess I do. One of them is, I'm gonna have both of you, Ryan and this and that. Well, we gotta have decisions. Can we get this stuff earlier than our day of our committee meeting?
Yes.
That way it gives people a chance to read it in the same way it want it dispersed to the rest of the legislators.
Okay.
It keeps from putting us on the spot, gives us a chance to think.
Got it.
Because, I mean, me personally, it feels like a knee-jerk reaction when we got to make these decisions.
Okay. Sure.
And stuff like that. So this way, we have a discussion, we see everybody's point. But I think it would help we can have a more robust discussion because everybody's prepared for it.
Sure. All made, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. You don't have to hand out. Okay, we're up for a question contract discussion. We talked about this once before. See what people's thoughts are. I'd like to, if we are going to do it, get an RFP and get some qualified people in here, because my feelings is at this point in time, they should just start looking at the drawings. One of the 2 things is going to help. It's a checks and balance, make sure everything's there. We don't have add-ons on the project, which are costly. And that's our representative, because what we got going, it's going to take somebody dedicated to following work, whether it's DSS, this, that, and then we're making their rounds every day. But, so I think these projects, definitely are going to take a project manager, so I'd like to open it up for discussion.
Yeah, I definitely think a project of this size, this cost, we should have somebody, a project manager.
The word in the industry that I kind of poke around a little bit right now, it seems like the wording is owner's rep. It's, they kind of say clerk of the works, but owner's representative is, kind of, as the project manager is the terminology.
And for projects of this size, it's industry standard.
Depends. I mean, bigger counties have an engineering department. We don't. And with this size of a project, with potentially 4 sites at once, or at least 3 sites at once, we kind of do things by committee with Jerry and Larry and Tim and Matt, and the department heads are involved. And we still miss things. And with 3 separate sites, I'd prefer to have somebody that is representing us.
Your prime example is the transfer center.
Yeah.
It's not anything major in this one. But that damn job's super small, and we've had a few hiccups. So when you get into this major stuff, I think we need someone to represent us, keep us informed and be our representative. The only thing I ask in the contract is that when push comes to shove, they're on our side. We don't hear, oh, we may have to work with them again, we're gonna take it easy. We had that before and I think we suffered from it. So, I mean, we've got, all different groups, so if we can send an RFP out, if that's what you wanna do. There's another group, I can't think of the name right now, before we go, I probably will. Everybody else, Phil?
I'm all with you on that one, Jerry. I think it's very, very important to get somebody on board and sooner than later.
Tom?
Yeah, a project this size, we've gotta have a project manager, whatever term you wanna put on it. And we need him as soon as we can get him, because he's gonna wanna look at the engineering, he's gonna wanna be involved in the bid process. It's gonna be money well spent. Right?
Yeah, I'm all for a clerk of the works.
Oh, yes, I'm for it, yeah.
What I was thinking about the other one is dormitory authority. So that's one. I think we ought to definitely send one out and see what they come back with.
I'm not familiar with that, what is it?
The dormitory authority, they do like clerks of the work or project managers and stuff. They're independent. They don't work for anybody else, so they answer. So, I mean, that's, I'd like to put it on the ground if we go with it. Thanks for the rest of them, but anybody knows, make sure we get the most.
So we'll pull together RFP specs and get them ahead of, it should only take us a few days to pull together. The hospital just did it, so we can really use a lot of their.
Well, it's that or Patrick can do the specs too, for.
Yep, I didn't think of that, yep. So actually, strangely enough, CNS is our architect engineer for this project. And they're the project manager for the hospital project. So they're already kind of, involved. Well, I guess what I was gonna say in terms of timing, we can get those specs together, get it out to you guys well ahead of the October meeting. And then at the October meeting, the full board can vote to release the RFP. Is that a good timetable?
No, do we have a motion to move it forward?
I like that motion.
We have a second. Ken?
Nothing to add.
No, I made a motion, to put out an RFP.
You seconded it, right?
Nobody seconded
All
it.
seconded.
Okay, yeah. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried. Okay, Tim? For, Champion Pit property?
Just for discussion purposes, I want to bring up the fact that we just paid the annual taxes on the Champion Pit that we own up in West Carthage, and make sure that everybody's aware of the fact that we do own gravel bed up in Jefferson County. We own 12.41 acres. We just paid $662 in taxes, which we pay annually on that pit. I don't see us using that pit. I don't see us using unprocessed gravel in the future, and where it's located in West Carthage makes it problematic for hauling. So it's, like I say, the county actually acquired that property in July 15th, 1952. And we've owned it ever since and paid taxes on it ever since.
Is it in this county or Jefferson County?
It's in Jefferson County, but I thought.
We ever used it?
We have used some gravel out of there, bank run gravel. They haven't taken any out in years, but they did take some out. I've looked in the records. I think they took some out 8 or 9 years ago. But the use for bank run gravel is getting less and less. We're buying state spec material and we're buying it locally, and you want to buy it from, the local, support your local businesses. So the only place I could see an advantage is like the brick block building. If you wanted to fill the basement, you could go up there and haul gravel. But But then you've got the trucking costs of hauling it from West Carthage to wherever we're going with it, so.
Does it an operating plant with a crusher and all that stuff?
What's that?
Is it an operating pit? Or they have crushers in there and all that stuff?
No, it's ours, we own it, we don't own any of that equipment, that's what I mean, we'd have to run the loader up there and load tank.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just bank run.
Yeah.
We'd have to rent a crusher if we wanted to crush material, or if we wanted it screened, we'd have to screen it. It's actually surrounded by the Champion Quarry that exists up there,
Okay.
so it's nestled within it, or right around it.
Do we still have active permit, open permit on that?
We do, we have the whole property is 12.41 acres, and we have an active permit for 10.
Okay, so we're gonna have to close it if we wanna get rid of it.
Or transfer the permit. We can transfer the
Can you
permit.
to like private entity, somebody bought it, or is it corporate?
No, we can transfer that permit.
Yep.
They wouldn't make us actually close the mine.
There's no liabilities with it?
No.
Okay.
Who's got the insurance policy right now? When you got a pit like that, you gotta have a pretty decent insurance policy
Municipalities get that bond waived.
with bond weight.
Yep, the bond is waived for municipalities.
What's your thoughts?
You should sell it.
So.
Yeah.
I'd say sell it.
Bill?
So,
Let's do what we gotta do. We have a motion to, go ahead and do the necessary, or whatever we need to do to get ready for sale.
I can make that motion.
Okay, have a second. All in favor, aye, opposed, nay?
Aye.
Carry. Thank you, Tim.
I worked here 4 years, I don't know we don't have that.
Now,
I'm gonna go brag about that.
I can't believe that. Skip you. That shit up. Oh, you missed that.
special officer, and we have to do that public.
You can start it.
Next, special patrol officer update and discussion.
I can provide an update. Copenhagen worked with the sheriff's office and Caitlin's office to post the position for a special patrol officer for Copenhagen Central School. After posting it, advertising, we received one applicant who was not,
They don't wish to move forward.
they don't want to move forward, thank you. They don't want to move forward with that applicant at this time. Copenhagen School District is requesting that the board reconsider the full status school resource officer under the same payment plan that was offered, split in cost that was offered to South Louis and Harrisville.
What were those percentages, just so we can refresh our mind?
Oh boy, like 70, 30.
55, 45, 45.
55, 45?
Yep.
But I thought that's because it was an existing deal and probably next time around we look at a little bit more.
They would be willing to go, they have said they're willing to work with us on cost.
If they're willing to pony up the difference, I got no problem with it at all myself. And I think they said they did when they were here.
So even with them doing more percentage, we are still adding another.
That position should be dependent upon where it's going. And I thought the others were gonna be that way, and I think Joan said they didn't get written that way.
Well,
I didn't really think that when we started hiring these school officers, if that program died, we just sent 2 more people to the road patrol. So if it's hired that way, that position works as long as we're gonna do these patrols.
we filled road patrol when they were hired.
Right.
They were supposed to do recreation.
Right.
Whether they do or not, I don't know. But on the same aspect, this is me speaking, what I've seen of that so far, I don't think we need to figure ahead, because we're not getting anything out of them. So what we used to use them for recreation. So, I mean, if they're gonna have them, I think they ought to work strictly for the school district, and when they're done, they're done.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
So it'd be 100% of their salary in retirement.
And they would only work the 40 weeks.
That's between them and the school district, not us. We're not hiring them, so we don't gain people. Because we haven't been getting anything in return either.
Yeah.
Look what we're paying. And what do we got?
So I'd have to defer to Caitlin, but I'm not sure that what you're suggesting, because you would have them hired by the school district for 10 months out of the year.
They pay the sheriff's office for that, and when the school's done, they're done.
So would that be a part-time position? Would that be a temporary position? I'm not sure how
Temporary
that works.
positions are positions that are less than 6 months or less, so it's longer than temporary. And it's not part-time because they're consistently working more, like a steady week for 10 months of the year.
Right.
So it really is a full-time 10-month position, so we would have to be eligible for all benefits. Because of,
But the school could pay them.
School.
right, we would have to,
We would have to pay, we're
to
hiring.
give them 10 months, we'd have to give them the benefits. But they have to be hired through us in order to maintain their officer status. They have to be hired through the sheriff's department. And that's what they want. They don't want a school safety officer. They either want the retired officer or a current active officer so that they still have those peace officer rights.
The one they turned down, I thought was retired.
You can still be a peace officer as a corrections officer.
Yeah.
Or probation.
Could we go back to the schools and ask if they, all of them combined, would be willing to pay the 2 months, the summer 2 months for summer activities?
They said they could use them for.
Well, they were talking about that at one point.
Right, so then the schools are still paying for 12 months of it and using them.
Reimbursing us, yeah.
I don't know if the
If they can't keep
schools
them busy for those 2 months.
are prepared to pay 100% of the benefits when we showed them the calculation of
Can
what
we
we
say that again?
I don't know if the schools are prepared to pay for 100% because that would be the benefits and, we would only have the rights, they would again be hired through us. We could pull them for special events or things of that nature, but I don't know if the schools are willing to pay 100%. We would have to check.
They were.
I think South Louis said 75.
75%.
Yeah.
Right. So again, that would be how much we would have to, that would be a negotiation we'd have to work out.
You'd have to negotiate the contract we already have, right?
2 of them been done for this
We
year.
got 2 contracts already in place, right?
Right.
That expire at the end of this year.
We'd have to negotiate.
If you wanted
They
to
go
change
to
the
the school-
contract, yes,
school
or
year.
you could allow that to go through June and renegotiate that too.
Okay.
So I guess maybe we should ask the question from the school if they're willing to pay 100% or there.
It makes it easier, cleaner for us.
Because, it's not a good use of taxpayer money from our side because we get very little out of it, so.
Do we have to be in the business of a school resource officer?
No.
Can the school do it on their own?
They can do,
They can have a safety officer, but a school safety officer doesn't have those peace officer rights like an officer does to make.
So we still have to be in the business then?
If we want to provide this service.
Why do we have to
We
provide
don't
it?
have to provide it, but we have been providing it.
Because the schools
We want it and we started.
It was 2 things when we started. We figured we had summer recreation patrol that was working 40 hours a week and serving some of our, needs and stuff like that. So, it was kind of looked good. It killed 2 birds with 1 stone. It helped them and it helped us. But as we look at it, we're not getting the benefit we thought we were paying.
Jackie had her hand up, no. Jackie doesn't have her hand up, sorry.
I guess I look at it, to me, the problem is the percentage. If the school's willing to pay 75, 80% for say 10 months out of the year, and whatever we can get out of the other 2 months, whether it's road patrol, summertime at the fairgrounds, whatever, that's what we've got. We want the recreation patrol. Yes, we've got some, but we don't feel we've gotten what we really wanted. But the idea of a 45, 55%, and they're tied up for 10 months out of the year, that's where the problem comes in. Does the Copenhagen wants one? Yeah, we'll do it at 75%. You pay the rest of it. And then whatever we get.
Yeah, but, yeah, I see what you're saying, but, you know, like road patrol, we're supposed to have the amount of road patrol we need. So you want to spend 25% of whatever the salary is for 2 months and get something you don't need?
I guess
And I'm just
That's why I
asking.
think we should maybe see if the
it's a
schools.
gray area whether we need it or not. You can't guarantee that nothing's gonna go wrong or that everybody's busy or not busy.
So I would just add that I don't think, you know, I think last year the percentages weren't what we had hoped. 19 were a little bit better. I still have hope that we can get, you know, we can benefit from the rec patrol. I would personally like a contract that was more focused on school days than school months. So 180 school days would then give us, you know, time with these officers during snowmobile months. It would give us time with them, you know, in the summer as well. The way it's been interpreted up till now is 10 months, which cuts out really, you know, 180 days is not a lot compared to 10 months is a lot more. So I guess what I'm saying is there's still a universe where everyone can get what they need from the 2 existing. I would defend that. Going forward to a third, I'm not gonna say anything, that's totally up to you guys.
Well, you know, the response to that was from the sheriff's office is that they're working for the school, they're working 5 days a week, they're already working full-time, and there is no time for the county while school's in session. So maybe you might get a little bit over Christmas vacation, but, you know, other than that.
They'll take their vacation at that time.
Yeah.
And then depends when they take their vacation, because if they come back and take a year, they're out for whatever time they got
And
home.
with our sick leave, if they've got an operation or something that needs to be done, they'll probably take that in the summertime.
Well, that was the conversation I had with Caitlin
Yeah.
over the vacations, you know, they're not gonna take it during the school year, they're gonna take it in the summer, so we don't get anything out of that either.
Don't we write the contracts?
We do, but
So can't we
we
put
are
in the
hired,
contract 75% or 80%?
of course we can, it's actually
Or
10
100.
months is 83% to be exact, but the question is, we have to also remember that we're hiring another SRO or another road patrol, deputy road patrol, who has
Well, make it
rights
100.
who has rights under the collective bargaining agreement.
Make it 100% like Jerry said.
I don't care.
We write the contracts. I mean, if the schools want them,
I don't think we really can do that in Copenhagen. This right now is June,
yeah.
June coming up.
Right.
But I think 80-20 would be fair. They pay 80% and we pay 20, because we get 2 months.
Whatever we decide, that's how it's gonna be for any schools.
Yes, from then on, from June on. Because June is the cutoff date, June of 22. So
The end of June, it's really the end of June, so
Yeah.
let's say from July on.
From July 1, yeah, whatever.
Say in a year,
80/20.
one of these schools no longer wants an SRO. Now we have another deputy. We cannot terminate them. Can we?
Yeah.
We need to
Okay.
let them off.
If you're overloaded,
Okay.
You can land, yeah.
I mean, the only reason we got extra deputies right now is because we hired to fill positions for the school. So, I mean, I could go 80% and try that.
For this
That's
contract.
Copenhagen, the other two gonna wait until June or renegotiate.
Well, I mean, we give them a heads up now, it's the way it's gonna be, if this is what we choose to do, so they're not, you know, or if we wanna go 100%, let them know in advance, it's gonna be there, everybody's gonna be there next
I
year.
think your question is, we have to wait till June.
That's-
Who's already signed those.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, yeah, otherwise you gotta renegotiate.
So it would be for the year 2020, starting in 2022,
Two,
21.
July.
the school year in
Next September.
2022, September of 2020.
But they would need to know ahead of time so they put it in their budget.
Right.
Yep.
We tell them, we can't do it on the 1st of July, we should
Right.
say.
I guess, I'm gonna throw this out for what it's worth. Okay, so what is the consensus, 100% or?
Negotiate with Copenhagen for 80/20.
Huh?
Negotiate with Copenhagen for 80/20 right now.
That sounds good to me too.
They have them for about 8%, so I think that's fair.
Okay.
And that's for the total cost of the oaths.
If we can get 80/20, can we post the position, or do you want to come bring it back to October?
I think Carpinelli got a person already.
Well,
What's that?
Carpinelli, I think, got a person already in line for Copenhagen.
Right, so we'd be posting it back.
That is.
Okay.
Does it have to be a resolution at the next meeting?
You're gonna be creating a new road patrol deputy position.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we can vote on that at the October meeting. Yeah, okay.
So you
Contingent
already
upon-
did a resolution to provide a special police officer.
Yeah, so you gotta rephrase
So now
that.
we will have something in the packet based upon this committee's decision to go forward with an SRO for Copenhagen for this school term with, as long as they accept an 80/20 split of the cost.
And by the time we find someone
No.
and train them,
this third
I don't
person,
know how
you
long
want
of a
them
school
on
year that.
recreation too?
Well, that's gonna be in the language, you know, whatever
Well-
time that they have available, they're supposed to be.
But
devoted to
I guess the
recreation.
thing is that we put the money in there. I think we ought to consider GPSs on the side-by-sides of the snowmobiles, and that's how you get paid.
I'm good with that part of this discussion.
Why not?
Well,
We're setting a contract
So-
for a new one.
that has nothing to do with the school's contract.
Oh, it does if
You
we're
doing
gonna hire
GP?
people.
What?
It does if we're gonna hire someone.
So maybe that should be in what we send out, you know, to hire somebody, that they're gonna have to provide this service and be subject to GPS. That's a different discussion. We're gonna have to talk about the collective bargaining.
But what I'm trying to say is if we're gonna agree to this, we ought to set what we expect for the other side too at the same time.
Yeah, but,
So
okay,
the
but-
thing is, would be GPSs on the snowmobiles, we'll buy them, and GPSs on the four-wheeler, and that's how they get paid. So if they don't have a log for the week they're supposed to work or the summer, then somebody's got a problem
okay,
with them.
so like we did with the other two then, that is not what will let Copenhagen know that there are conditions that this officer is gonna have to abide by for the work for the county. And if that person doesn't do that, it's subject Copenhagen to not having
Well, let's hold
that
on just a
SRO.
second. I totally agree with you, but I don't know if we can
So we're gonna have to make the decision on if we are backfilling someone, or if we're moving somebody that's currently in existence over to Copenhagen, whoever we hire is still gonna need to go through training and academy before they're even gonna be allowed on the road. So we will either incur, my guess is either overtime on our end to cover that space if we send them immediately. So we'll have to discuss that with what type of plan, and that might include a discussion with the sheriff, Mr. O'Connell, or something of that nature.
Unless we got lucky enough to get somebody. who's already
Unless we get a transfer,
Yeah.
right, correct. We could get, don't exclude luck, yeah.
Shouldn't we take this contract with Copenhagen and make them so they all start to at the same time? In
Yeah.
other words,
But this school year's already started now,
Right.
so.
But I mean, rather than have to go through everything.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, back to Jerry's point with the GPS on the recreational vehicles. We can't subrogate the payroll of a full-time officer based on GPS readings, I don't think, can we?
Not unless it's in the contract.
Right, and we'd have to negotiate that.
Okay.
Really fine.
Well, I mean, essentially, it's gonna be the same thing that's been happening.
Exactly.
And, you know, if it is, then we've got the contract anyways, everybody's done. So, be nice to have that stuff so we have an idea.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, we got our marching orders on that.
Do we want a motion on that one? For the 80, 20?
I've got general consensus as long as we, can bring it back for a full vote at the October meeting, or the October board meeting.
Okay. Okay. I guess we're ready for dockets. No. Want to bring a couple things up. Lost my notes here. Okay, I guess we have one thing, and I don't know if we gotta do that in executive session or not. Cheese plant. We were talking about doing some phase 2 and stuff. Does that need to be in executive session?
No. So what I would like to request this committee to consider is that they authorize us to put together an RFP on the Lewis Dairy property for an asbestos survey and have the RFP broken out into A and B so that we want a bid on the asbestos survey and also on structural analysis and survey. And so that we can determine whether or not we want to do the structural analysis depending upon how much of the cost, that cost is, knowing that there's so many buildings and such.
Okay. Questions and discussions on that?
The structural survey goes before the structural analysis, that's how it works, or?
I say structural survey, it's a structural analysis that
Okay.
gets done.
And then from there, they're able to, what was the next step you said, though?
One would be an asbestos
Okay.
assessment, and the other one would be the structural analysis.
Okay.
And we can select them individually or.
Right.
And the analysis will determine if it has any value or if it needs something.
The structural analysis is really for the integrity of the building, so they have a sense of what issues there.
We might not do that even
Right.
until we find out somebody that's interested a little bit. See
Well,
where they're at.
I guess, we've been going back and forth to everybody, and I think we're all different directions why I brought this up. I mean, the thing is, if we do have, say we know what the asbestos removal is, we still need that other part to make a decision to turn it around and see if we're going to get involved in it or not. We can't make the decision just on asbestos. So I guess why we're splitting and doing only half of it at a time.
Because I think we need to have a price on the structural so that we got a rough idea what that is.
Well, I mean, we can do an RFP for those and we can do an RFP for that.
Yeah.
But shouldn't we do the whole phase? And the reason I'm asking that is I wanna know what's there as far as how much, is the building worth even salvaging, the ones we looked at, metal? And that's gonna affect our decision, whether there's asbestos in there or not, whether we even gonna attempt to do it. So we're still gonna need it to move forward. Am I wrong in my reasoning?
I would say structural analysis are generally done as part of the phase two. When somebody can't get in to test for the contaminants because of the structure, the building isn't structurally sound. So we're not making representations in terms of all these structures are good for somebody to buy. It's really related to the environmental phase two, which is the asbestos at this point.
Yeah, but I guess maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but I'd like to run a little bit further.
Jerry, can we make it, can I just make one suggestion? Let's structure the RFP where they can respond to the asbestos, respond to structural, or respond to a combination. And then we can decide whether we want to do any or all of it.
Well, and I think that's what we were talking about, because I think it's just general consensus, we don't want to touch it. It's so expensive, but if those buildings are worth nothing, some of us think there's a value to certain ones. But there's a way of recovering some of the money you spent if some of them are selling. That's where I'm getting. So if we do both, so we can take the next step, yeah, I'm fine. Everybody fine with that? And you understand what I'm trying to say? Because if we don't get the whole information, we're still not gonna be able to make a good informed decision.
Yeah, and we'll see how the numbers come back.
Okay. So that cover both of them, and then we decide at a later date whether we're gonna go single or, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Memorial Park and,
Sorry, Jerry, do we need to mark something though with that? With the,
Did you make a motion?
yeah, no, I didn't, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion that we go ahead and, do both, and then bring it back and make a decision where we're going from there.
I'll second it.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried. And then we have a memorial park and, no,
Singing orders.
no.
New Bremen.
New Bremen. I couldn't think of the name. I was by there the other day and the sign for the place, it used to be real nice. It's not very impressive now. And I guess the thing is, we do have revenues coming in. And seeing we have them, I'd like to keep them to a standard, so that sign, something needs to be done with it.
Where's the land of the park?
It's coming up 812,
Right on 812?
New
Right
Bremen.
across from the cutoff road almost.
It's by the DC.
Oh, okay.
So it's Huff Memorial. It was an arboretum.
Oh, okay, I know where that sign is, yeah.
It's scheduled for harvesting.
Yeah, on the right-hand side, if you go to the road.
Yeah, right before winter.
So can we, Jack, you should have enough money in your budget this year or send a crew down and try to spruce up that sign a little bit. That's something we can take care
It'll probably have to go.
of. Okay.
Not go too long.
Okay, new sign then.
Will highway build the sign?
Yeah, sure.
And we're generating, well, I mean, we own it, we ought to keep it decent, that's all.
I agree.
And we're generating revenue off of it through tapping. It's not a lot, but even if we put it back in, that's all.
Sure.
So, appreciate it. And then, Singing Waters, we talked about that before. We'd like to look at that, and compare, because, like we said before, I don't want to compete with people who are already in the business. And I think there ought to be some type of permit. We're going to have people coming in there and collecting garbage. Because if people are going to be parked, camped in there. we got a well, we got showers and stuff like that, so I think there ought to be a permit and it ought to be, compatible with the rest of them, so we're not competing against them.
I mean, a permit fee to stay there?
So what we can do is let's look at the cost per night of Whitaker Falls and Whetstone Golf and a couple of private, and we'll bring back a little price sheet
Yeah,
and see
give- you
where
know,
everybody's at.
For further discussion, because we started it quite a while before anything got dropped.
You
That's
gotta-
all.
You gotta do it based on what they've got, because Singing Water's got water, sewer, and showers, so
Not gonna.
getting closer.
Yeah, we're in the process.
Some of the others don't have all three.
Who's gonna collect that fee?
Once we get that campground fully open, we're gonna have to add a part-time employee to go down and clean things up and, do the garbage and bathrooms anyway, so I would think it would be an honor system Dropbox.
Why don't we do it the way Whitaker does it? And I have no idea what that is, why don't we talk with them?
They got, I think they got a Dropbox.
Pardon?
They got 2 people at work.
They do now?
Yeah,
Okay.
they have for years.
And, I mean, a Dropbox, somebody's gonna be there. They open Dropbox up and see if the permit's in there for that day.
Yeah, a lot of the fairgrounds do that, you travel around the country, and they just send a guy over once the data.
It's not gonna make us rich and
See where
stuff
you're
like
at, no.
that, but it help offset some of the cost and, we're not infringing on other people, because it's free, people are gonna flock there and not wanna pay the other.
Well, I'm thinking of cost and length of stay, I mean, they ran into some homesteader problems, I think, in Whitaker.
Well, we might want,
So,
we might want,
why don't we kind of do it that way?
Several months.
Yeah, exactly.
we might want to consider a week at a time so more people get to use it.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, just check with them and see.
But we're not gonna be able to get those big trailers and things into this park, so if they're homesteading on a tent.
That's what they were, homesteading at a tent.
Even at Singing Water, there people.
Or 2 tents.
Jackie has a question here.
I'm sorry.
It'll continue only to be tent access only. There's gonna be no motorized access over that bridge.
Right, yeah. Good, because I don't think that, you get most of them in.
No, so when you take out the bridge, the angle of the approach on it is horrific, so.
We'll come up with a little comparable thing.
Appreciate it. That's all I had. Anybody else on me has?
Yeah, Jerry, I'd like to have a resolution. We've, in the past 3 or 4 years here, authorized our water tax distribution to certain villages, those being Constableville, Copenhagen, Golden, all lines, all. Usually it's done in December, so I'd like to be able to have that ready for the next meeting, and have a good, people that have got some costs for this year, put that to a good time to spend this year's budget.
Okay, I guess the thing is let's talk about it this way, because I don't remember what happened before, but, I mean, if we're turning around and doing that, I thought that was a one-time shot, and then they didn't have to pay. So,
No, the second thing we have to have a resolution then that will authorize an exemption, and that's a longer conversation.
right, well, why don't we,
Your motion is to reimburse them for the.
this year,
Yeah,
there's
there's
already paid.
Yeah, and last year, the year before, the year before that.
We've done
We returned
resolution,
it,
but
yeah.
why don't we just, our intentions are giving it back, why make them pay it in the first place?
Well, that's because of the certain circumstances down there in your neck of the woods with Rome. Remember?
Yeah, so what we,
Okay.
what
No, I
we
didn't
did,
remember that.
what we did when Dick brought it up again is I revamped the actual policy so that it would only cover, towns and villages whose water and sewer service, entities within Lewis County. So that eliminates that concern. I just also wanted to point out that the payment that were made by these villages this year, which includes the village of Turin, which was left off of that list for a number of years, I don't know why. But the total cost that they paid in 2021 was $75,991.78.
So you're saying we can exempt them without causing any problems
You
now?
can relook at the policy and I can do a draft resolution for you to consider, where you amend that policy that's been in effect to allow for all of them to have the exemption.
Okay. We
That
need
could
to,
open up a can of worms, though, couldn't it, Joan?
Or,
For Rome to use.
no, not the way we drafted the policy.
She said it, but
And
well,
we're,
go ahead.
we've already had the trial on the city of Rome, so
If we can, we will, but Dick needs a motion on that, right?
The way I see it, let's do the resolution that we've done for the last 3 or 4 years, and then discuss the permanent one, yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to spring it on the permanent one on everybody when it's not talked about.
Well, I wasn't trying to do it today.
No,
We'll do this one, but let's
yeah,
get
and then we
that
have
discussed.
this permanent one sent to everybody so they can read it and think about it and what have you, then we can talk. to them.
Talk it through.
So,
Okay, do you need a motion?
yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay,
We just do what we've done in the past years for right now.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
we'll have the resolution in the packet for you.
Okay, and then can you give?
And that way you'll see all the villages and their amounts
And then can you give us information
on the other.
on?
So for October committee, we'll try to bring back the larger policy
Appreciate it.
instead.
Is there any other? Anybody got anything else? No, I got the old one. Okay, dockets.
The first docket is adopting local law number 3-2021, a local law amending and replacing local law number 10-2019, the County of Lewis junkyard law.
Any questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Adopting local law number 4-2021, the amended local law regulating and permitting special events on county roads, trails, or other county property, and on any town roads and property where the town has opted in.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Authorizing Lewis County Department of Buildings and Grounds to enter into a renewal agreement with Davinas Enterprises LLC for plowing of the roads to 8 tower sites in Lewis County for the 2021-2022 snow season for a cost not to exceed $25,000.
Questions, discussion?
We didn't go out to bid, this is just a renewal, right?
We went out to bid 1 year prior to this, so you have a little time to.
Well, it should be.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Authorizing a renewal agreement with J. Arthur Seal Coating and Contracting for snow plowing and sanding of the Lewis County Jefferson Community College Education Center parking lot for the 2021 and 2022 snow season for a cost of $6,400, with any hauling and dumping of accumulated snow at a cost of $95 per hour for use of the loader, and $95 per hour for the use of the dump truck.
Questions, discussion?
The loader and dump truck include labor, the operator?
I think
I think
it
that's
does, otherwise we would have said it for.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Authorizing an agreement between the County of Lewis and Kinsley Power Systems for generator maintenance services at the 911 tower sites and county buildings for a 5-year term commencing January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2026 at yearly cost amounts of $9,520, $9,709, $9,922, $10,115, and $10,320.
Any questions?
Do we have the services filled out that we expect them to perform? Just so that we got something to balance back.
Yes.
We do.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Can we go back to 4 for just a second?
Number 4,
That needs to say, per hour man. Otherwise, you could have one guy out there at $180 an hour, load your dump truck, leave the loader empty. Well, it's gonna take twice as long to do it. So it needs to, you need to have an operator in both the truck and the loader, I would think.
Yeah, that's what I asked the question.
okay.
See my point?
Yeah, I'll go over that with Matt.
So, we need to, go back and.
No,
take a
it'll just
motion.
be a term of the contract.
Just make that correction.
Yeah.
No, that's for snow removal.
Yeah, they did 2 million small.
Authorizing agreement between the County of Lewis and T&D Blacktop and Sealing for maintenance performed on the parking lot at the Lewis County Jefferson Community College Education Center at a cost not to exceed $9,900 with work to be completed by November 30th, 2021.
Questions, discussions? What are they doing besides sealing? They putting some blacktop down too?
Yeah, I'm totally confused here, so.
It's just resealing. I don't think it's new blacktop, it's just resealing from 2018, 19, is when we would have done that project, so keeping it fresh and then restriping.
It's the same company, Jerry, doing 2 different things.
Doing 2 different things, yeah. And it kind of to me, I read it as,
Yeah.
they're doing some blacktop.
The name of the company, TD Blacktop.
I don't think they're doing black, I don't think we have
Just sealing.
cracks or issues up there, no.
Okay,
Yeah, they're just doing maintenance.
Yeah, we're just sealing.
okay, thank you. Any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Ordering immediate site cleanup, removal of unsafe and contaminated burned building debris, and backfill of the former brick block building turned New York property.
Questions, discussions?
When that gets all done, who owns the money?
I think we're gonna have to take it over.
2 of them are in tax foreclosure. They're listed in this foreclosure proceeding that's scheduled for November. The other one is, the other 3 parcels are owned by Rose McKenna. Once we go in and do that cleanup, it gets assessed on her property taxes. We'll end up owning it.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Awarding bid and authorizing agreement between County of Lewis and Green to Green Consulting LLC for professional air monitoring services at the Turin Brick Block cleanup and removal project at a cost not to exceed $10,849 for an estimated 20 days of services.
Any questions, discussion?
It doesn't take 20 days to do that building?
It's up to, we sent out and, got some quotes and we had, to give them an estimate because we didn't really know, so.
So if it takes 10 days, does this price change?
Yes, it'll be less than
Oh,
that.
okay.
It's up to.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Yep.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Amending compensation plan with reference to Highway Department to abolish 1 full-time mechanic welder position at grade 21 and create 1 full-time MEO medium position at grade 18.
Questions?
Yeah, why don't we talk about that briefly? I'm gonna be getting into more detail on the 2022 budget in the Finance and Rules Committee. We did have a mechanic resign from the Highway Department. Found a different job in the private sector. And rather than replace a mechanic at a time when Tim is trying to implement a new equipment rotation plan, you know, we had at one point 5 mechanics because everything we drove down there was covered with rust. We really have done a good job. Even, you know, last year, because we didn't plow, we spent a lot of money on new equipment, or excuse me, we didn't pay last year due to the furlough. We spent a lot of our CHIPS money on new equipment. Tim has a philosophy where we're rotating through equipment a lot sooner. So the theory is we shouldn't need as many mechanics. Therefore, the more people we can put on road is better. So the thought is eliminate a mechanic, create a medium equipment operator that can work on the construction side.
Any other questions or further discussion? All in favor, aye? Opposed, nay? Carried.
Authorizing supplemental agreement number 3 to the contract between the New York State Department of Transportation and Lewis County for the Transportation Federal Aid Bridge Replacement Project known as County Road 29 over Whetstone Creek, and appropriate an additional $116,500 to facilitate the final design phase.
Any questions?
Is County Route 29 the West Road?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing and adopting the 2021 Lewis County Human Services Coordinated Transportation Plan.
Questions, discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Carried.
Authorizing Child Care Services Expansion Program and transfer funds in the amount of $200,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act funding.
Questions?
We already had, how many people go through?
19, I believe, are working with Jefferson Community College. The Jefferson County IDA is stepping up and funding money from their side as well. So this has become a true partnership at this point. We will not use all 200,000 right now. This is a plan that's going to take a few years. But yeah, it's working well. So kudos really goes to Cassie, Brittany Davis, Lisa, and others that have, you know, been thoughtful about this issue. It's just not something that would have occurred to me, but it's something that's desperately needed in our community. I think they did a good job leading it, and now the whole region is on board, so that would be great.
Are we going to get a spreadsheet sometime that shows the total amount of the American Rescue Plan Act funding that we know right now and how we supposed to parcel that out?
Yep, I can get you that.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Accept grant, authorize agreement, appropriate funds in the amount of $747,790, and determine CDBG project number 636 CBPF9-21 constitutes a type 2 action with no significant environmental impact under SECRA.
Any questions or discussion?
Is this for the broadband or is this the regional housing?
This is the broadband connections project, yeah? Right, Cassie?
Yes.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye? Opposed, nay? Carried.
Determining CDBG project number 636 HO133-20 constitutes a type 2 action under SECRA with no.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Determining CDBG project number 636 HR134-20 constitutes a type 2 action under SECRA with no significant environmental impact upon the environment.
Questions, discussions?
Jerry, you see a number of these because each CPD project now requires a separate resolution on the environmental impact. So we apologize, but we're going to do something more.
Okay, but I guess the question is are you allowed also to identify them besides the number?
They are in the resolution. They describe a little bit about what it is.
Appreciate it. Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay?
Determining CDG project number 636, ME 980-21 constitutes a type 2 action under SEQA with no significant environmental impact upon the environment.
Questions, discussions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Appointing members to the Traffic Safety Board for a 3-year term effective January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024.
Just coming back with the names of the people who are appointing later on.
The resolution has it on it.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Appointing planning director as the certifying officer for certain community development block grants.
Questions, discussions? You may not have, that was a late one, right, Cassandra?
That was the draft resolution that I handed out to everybody.
Okay. So is there any questions? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
The first motion is a motion to authorize solid waste director Kip Turk to refill one part-time MEO medium position effective immediately.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's just a motion. It needs to be, somebody makes it and then seconds it.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll ask you again. Sorry. Passed.
Motion to authorize planning director Cassandra Beal to send out an RFP on the Old Jail / Tug Hill Artisan Roasters Main Street Downtown Stabilization Grant Project for roof repair, lead, asbestos abatement, facade improvements, and elevator installation.
I'll make that motion.
I guess I have a question. Does the same people still own it? Wasn't that TLS?
Don't know. Cassie?
So Tug Hill Artisan Roasters just purchased it from TLS. They finalized their purchase and they're now proceeding with the project. And since we were the grantee of the New York Main Street Grant, we have to watch RFP before we can proceed with the project.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, aye?
Yeah, can we have just a little more discussion then? Are we putting county taxpayer dollars onto a building that's owned by an individual or an organization now?
No, it's the war money that we received is completely grant funded. The Tug Hill Artisan Roasters is providing the entire match.
You mean the entire bank?
Jerry, who seconded that motion?
I don't think we got there. I'm sorry to take that question. We haven't seconded that.
Well, yeah.
Lisa made the motion. I was waiting for somebody to second it.
I can't second it.
Okay,
It's abstained.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Jerry, could you note my abstention on Joan's advice? The Tug Hill Artisan Roasters is owned by my brother, so.
Thank you. We need an executive session?
No.
Okay. That's it, unless anybody else does. Thank you.
Can you get a motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion.
We do.
Eric,
It was kind of a short notice to jump here, some of them was going to them, but the board, people, the committee can stay, we'll hear them out.
I can get a paper that, oh, you have.
I'll second it.
Oh, MacGyver action.
5 minute recess?
I mean, that's what.
No, first year.
You know, I figured something had to be done.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah.
You kidding me? Inside, no, yeah, I'm sure that's where there wasn't any for that.
one.
I'll make that motion.
Could I get a second?
Yep.
Okay, first I'm gonna ask Jerry to do Jerry Keeler to do an update on COVID-19, please, or anything. The floor is yours.
Not Boston, you know, care about Red Sox.
Yeah.
Touche. But it was enjoyable this weekend seeing how my team played compared to Ryan's team.
Yankees won last night, just going on the record.
I think that was a setup.
So, well, thank you for the invitation to come down. I could truly ramble on for quite a long time. Before I do that, do you have any questions? And then from that, I can sort of tailor my reflections.
I just want to share that I did go to the hospital for a test, and the lady that took care of me was just wonderful,
Okay.
just great.
She was probably scared of you like we all are.
Is that why you don't sit with us?
All right, thank you.
And I really thought, she needs a pat on the back, she really did a good job.
Okay, maybe after we're through, if you have initials for me or something.
I don't have a name, but I can tell you where I was.
Okay, that'll be good.
What is your vaccination rate up to at the hospital?
Yeah, we're in the mid-80s, so I make good progress. The corresponding question would be then, how many resignations do we have, right? Because that's the tension point. And resignations as of 7 o'clock this morning, 45. So why that's problematic is, I was just reviewing our posted positions. So, before the mandate, we had 71 full-time and part-time posted positions and 33 casual positions. And so when you add 45 resignations, not all of which have been posted, but will eventually be posted because they're still with us, that brings us up to 148 open positions. So you can appreciate that that's difficult. Most of 70% of the resignations are in clinical areas. Yes, sir.
Jerry, when will those resignations be accepted? Is there a process we have, or?
Yeah, so we had been encouraging individuals basically to follow the contract language, which means a 2-week notice. And so we were hoping to receive all resignations by the 13th of September, which would have been 14 days to the state mandate. That did not occur as verified by right now. We have 79 individuals that were really, they're not disclosing to us what their intentions are.
So that number could change in
Yes.
coming days.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to those who are unvaccinated, you probably have read or heard that the religious exemption portion of the mandate, there was a temporary restraining order brought forward, and late yesterday, it was extended to October 12th. From an operations perspective, that's challenging because we will have a group of employees we don't know what to do with yet. We have received, I believe, 14 religious exemptions to date. And now we're trying to figure out what do we do on after the 27th. The temporary restraining order basically says we can't do anything, but the Department of Health is saying we must do something. So we've already been in touch with legal, and I've reached out to Haney's, and they were scheduled to meet with the governor's office this morning to talk through what is the message to all of us who have to follow this mandate.
Go ahead.
Who is it
the determining person to accept or deny the religious exemption?
That is a challenging question. Because the guidance is that we have to evaluate the sincerity of the request, what's in their heart. And I did not take that class, right? We can have a judgment. I mean, generally, as I've read these, it kind of really stands out when somebody is writing with deep conviction and sincerity. But when it comes to matters of religion, none of us are truly qualified to say what is in a person's heart. So at this point, they're just in a folder. We've accepted them, and then we're gonna see what the courts decide. And you know, on the medical exemption side, it's a little more straightforward, because there are contraindications for the COVID vaccine. So that would be a reason for a medical exemption. And then there may be underlying issues that the provider knows. So there's a place to identify that. And generally right now, first trimester of pregnancy would be one that would be approved. That is probably the most difficult part of the medical exemption, because the science actually says second and third trimester, those women should receive the vaccine. Many of our staff feel differently.
So my question is, on the religious exemption, will it be internal, or do we send it to the state for someone that doesn't know people?
No, it'll be an internal decision, and then we have to document it and put it in the file. When the DOH does a typical survey, they will ask to see how we reach conclusion and how many we've given. Let's play extreme. Let's just say we received 200 religious exemptions. That would probably be a big red flag for the state.
Right.
Receiving a 14 for our size workforce is not something that would generate any concern, I don't believe.
Now, Jerry, I've seen in the paper and at least on one television thing, the restraining order only applies to people who have filed religious exemption forms. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay, so it doesn't apply to your whole workforce.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
But religious exemption forms can be received right up until,
Yeah, exactly.
the 27th. Yep. Okay, if there are no more specific questions, why don't I just share some general notes. A lot of questions with regards to, or community feedback that I've received, both internally and externally, regarding why hospital CEOs aren't coming together to stand up against the mandate. It is just not an option. You know, if you think about our process here today, moments ago, you passed a number of resolutions. Those resolutions will now move to the full board, and then more, they'll be discussed and either passed or not. Then they become the rules that guide our behavior in the county of Lewis. The same happens in my world. The Public Health Council passed an order. The Department of Health issued it to us. We do not have an option, and we don't have an option for a couple of reasons. The Department of Health issues our operating license. And two, many years ago, Lewis County General signed a document accepting Medicare and Medicaid money, and what goes along with that is we will follow the rules of the department. So it isn't about wanting to stick up for our residents. It's really the law of the land, right? The rules of the road. And that's what we have to follow. Having said that, we have a COVID issue in Lewis County. Depending on the day, we're either first, second, or third in one day, yesterday's positivity rate, 7-day or 14-day. It has not been a good 3-week stretch for us. Consistently, since the beginning of the month, we've had several COVID positive patients admitted. And we've had a significant number of staff, both isolated and quarantined. There was a stretch, we had 10 staff who weren't working. So you put 10 staff on top of our vacancies, you can see it's a real challenge. So I professionally and personally think the vaccine is a good idea. Continue to send that message. Where I think the shortcoming came was it came out of left field. That, you know, typically when an organization, government body is considering a change, there's conversation for a period of time. This truly, one day it was there, and then 5 weeks later is the deadline. And I think as a result, we weren't able to prepare the organization for what could be coming, allow people to work through that, provide information, figure out how to meet people's needs. So that's been the challenge there.
When you say we've been first, second, or third, what?
Out of the 62 counties, we've had the worst score. We've either been first, second, or third.
Okay,
That's not great. No, thank you. Now, it is having a significant impact on our operations from a financial point of view. The Board of Managers, Executive, and Finance Committee met yesterday, and we reported for the month of August an operating loss of $324,000. That brings our year-to-date operating loss to $994,000. And we were projecting at this point in the year to have an operating margin of $855,000. So there are clear impacts. So we're trying to work our way through that. It's not an expense issue at this point. Actually, the team has done a great job managing FTEs. And there are really two significant expense lines that are challenging for us. One is lab testing. So all of those tests we had to do for the nursing home that we sent out to the reference lab that was mandated to us, that was huge. When I say huge, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, that when we built last year's budget, we didn't project. The other area is around agency nursing staff, and we have used agency staff both at the hospital and the nursing home. It is just an expensive way to staff. What's challenging now is the price of an agency nurse has skyrocketed. Since we recognized we had a meaningful number of resignations on our maternity unit, we have, I personally have been reaching out to the companies, and the range is between right now a low of $180 per hour to a high of $250 per hour. And that assumes that you can get them. So free market is alive and well here. All hospitals across New York State, across the country, are dealing with the same issue we're dealing with. But we do have an unresolved challenge, and that is how we are going to staff delivery, labor, and postpartum after September 24th. And so we've been working on a pause plan with the Department of Health. And Michelle Prince has taken the lead for us. And for the last 5 work days, she's been working on this. And the application packet right now is about 3 inches thick. As part of that, I've negotiated MOUs with Carthage, Samaritan, and the Mohawk Valley Health System, Utica, so that our moms who will be delivering after the 24th, there are the appropriate legal documents in place so it's easy to transfer.
So all those you just described will be delivering babies?
No, they will be delivering at one of 3 places. So what you do is you create options, and then the doctor and the patient will discuss what option is best for them. And then ultimately the patient will decide if they go to Carthage, Samaritan, or the Mohawk
But
Chapter.
those 3 facilities will be delivering babies.
Right now, yes.
But
Sorry, I misunderstood
That's all
your
right.
question. So the question you might be wondering then is, what are the other areas of concern? So we've been tracking resignations and where they're coming from. And every day we have a stand-up meeting and we review this sort of thing. So right now in OB, maternity, we have received 8 resignations. And we have a total staff count of 18. So you can appreciate that challenge. Not 18 FTEs, 18 bodies. Then the second highest was in the dietary department. And at this point, we've been able to navigate that. Most of the resignations have been part-time and school-age employees. So our plan is, if we run into difficulty, close down the cafeteria. In our employee practices, we've received 5 resignations. So, Harrisville, South Louis, Beaver River, and the Lowville campus. So among all of the practices, we have received 5. So what it means on a practical level is, it may take a little longer to get in. And within that, we've had 1 physician resign. The other area that's on, so those are, the areas that, out of those 3 that I've mentioned, maternity is really the challenging area. The other one we're watching closely is the nursing home. We have had 4 resignations and we have 22 individuals who are unvaccinated. So you can appreciate when you're trying to staff 4 units, that's a challenge. We have some reason for optimism, unofficially hearing that most will be vaccinated, but not until the very end. But I can't confirm that. The other area that we've been watching closely is the OR. The OR for lots of reasons, right? We do quite a few emergency surgeries over the course of a week. And then we do many elective surgeries. In healthcare financing, small rural community hospital, the operating room is the financial backbone of the organization. So if we don't have enough staff for surgery, the first thing that would go would be the elective surgeries. And then it would be a limited schedule to support emergency surgeries. However, that would have create significant financial distress. Medical surgical, we've only received 1 resignation, but they remain on our watch list because we have 10 individuals that we're not clear what they will do. So with that, I've sort of given you a broad brush of both the simplicity and complexity of this, right? It's pretty simple to receive an order that says everybody must be vaccinated. It becomes a bit complex when you blend that order with the local culture and, in an organization that has multiple departments and really is driven by clinical services and primarily by nursing.
Are you, on the broader picture, you're basically $1 million short from what, at a loss, so through August, and you projected 800,000 to the good. Is that a concern to you, and should it be to us?
Well, it is clearly a concern of mine because when we built the budget, we built it in good faith based on last year's projections, based on the certain level of personnel, based on trending to a recovery period as a result of COVID. But just the opposite has happened, right? COVID has gotten worse in Lewis County, and no one projected the mandate on the vaccine. And so that's been pretty significant. We've had many more days this year where we've had diversion from the emergency department. In fact, it happened this weekend. For about 18 hours, I think, we, didn't have enough beds and we ran out of staff. So I am concerned, and I'm also, though it's not the first item on my priority list each day, we may have to reevaluate the project, the big capital project, and the assumptions that went into that project. So I suspect we'll be talking more over the next few weeks and months.
I have a little paranoid about this because I come from the bad old days that Jerry will remember when the hospital owed the county a very substantial amount of money, and so.
Now it's just the opposite. You all owe me a substantial amount of money.
I understand. So, but that makes me a little more conscious of the.
No, I share that concern and take seriously the responsibility of being an enterprise fund. And we have to, the low bar is breaking even. The better bar is generating enough revenue so we can continue to invest in ourselves and in the staff, right? Because it's margin that goes into capital and it's margin that goes into pay increases. So I completely agree with you. I don't know what to say at this point. If we truly have, 79 more people resign, it'll be stormy waters. Now, I don't think that will happen, but we're already up to 45. So, hitting 55 to 65 in total is not outside the realm of possibility.
Well, as you described initially, that 45 is in addition to your open positions anyway. But it's good to hear that you're reevaluating or just evaluating the capital project, because that's a big
Well, you have a member of your board who sits on my board. Do you think I could get out of the room without acknowledging I have to do that? The board, I appreciate the relationship I have with my board. They're very straightforward. There's no second guessing. And I think, over the last 4 years, we've developed a very strong, direct relationship, which is what's needed. It's all fun and games when things are going well,
Right.
But it's, when you hit a challenging period, that's when we all need to be collectively focused on the same target.
And you've done a really good job.
Well, thank you.
Are you hearing from other hospitals around the area, having similar financial situations, staffing situations?
Unofficially, yes. Officially, no. And that is driving me absolutely crazy. Because no one else is reporting publicly that their services are at risk in the same way that we have. I think part of it is, we certainly, when I met with the board and we did the press briefing to our community, we were talking to our community. We weren't talking to Albany and we weren't talking to Washington. We were talking to our community. So it's fascinating to me that this challenge, got the attention it did. I think a lot about how we could have done it differently. But on the other side of the coin, I've gotten a lot of phone messages from other CEOs, basically, thank you for sharing the story. And I said, well, that was kind of accidental. I was sharing it with my community. So it's taken some of the heat off. But as a result, Haney's is more involved with the governor's office. And I think at some point, the DOH and the governor's office is starting to realize it's real. You might have heard the governor's press briefing about a week ago when she sort of intimated that help was being sent or had been sent. I've been asked that question. There's been absolutely nothing. And I've done all the things we're supposed to do. I think they have bigger fish, and I don't think they fully understood the impact on a mandate once issued and 5 weeks later expected to be executed, and how that would impact local healthcare services. Unless something fundamentally changes, people will better understand that on the 28th.
Jerry, I think to that, what you said just about the community wants to see us fighting for those people, it needs to be pointed out, as you just did. We have done so much, and by we, to see if there's some way to get some kind of hardship exemption. This is not a policy we saw. It was imposed on us, we're working within it. We have to think about the big picture, but there are efforts being made that aren't always apparent to the public to see if there's some way we can reach a political resolution. We hate to use the word political, but short of a political resolution, there is no other option. It's that or we're stuck with what the state says.
And that's where Haney's comes in, because I think it's no longer about the North Country or the city. It's about healthcare across the state. And so that's how we're working it. We have opportunities to brief Haney's on the local experience. We complete surveys once a week. The new deputy secretary for the Department of Health, I've had 3 conversations with. And so we now have each other's cell phone numbers. So, those aren't the things I would report outside of an executive session, right? Because you want to maintain that connection. So we're plugging away. The team is working really hard. They have stretches of incredible busyness. And we had been gaining ground on the nursing home with our census. But right now, because of the staff who have been isolated in quarantine who work in the organization, nursing home visits have been paused. And because our positivity rate is greater than 5% in Lewis County, we've had to restrict visitation at the hospital. Those things are somewhat out of our control, but they show what happens when you don't get a handle on COVID and it's allowed to kind of percolate again. I appreciate your support and your encouragement. I think that's important, and I convey that message to my team, and we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, Jerry, a couple of things. When Jerry came before, having been on both boards, I see both sides of the coin. But Jerry didn't say we're going to close maternity, we're going to close XYZ, we're going to close ABC. He said, if this carries out, we'll pause. And it's getting lost with the public out there. What pause is being read as closed. I get a lot of calls a day on it. So if we could just say, hey, remember, this is the executive who gave us the true option of what we could look forward to 2 or 3 weeks before it was going to happen. And appreciate that piece of it. Because you don't see the other hospitals out there saying, the other side of the coin, well, we're not going to have to do this, we're not going to have to do that. I mean, but Jerry said that, thank you, Jerry, for being the scapegoat up front to pass all this stuff.
It was the right thing to do.
And it was exactly what I expected.
Because what would have happened after the 24th, then the public would have learned we can't deliver babies on the 25th. That is just
impossible.
Right.
Yeah, that's just not the way to conduct business. Sorry, well, thank you.
And as far as one note that I did notice, and I think it was on News, that Samaritan did say they were going to have 473 openings as of the 27th. So I assume that's due to resignations.
But they didn't say what services.
But they didn't say a word about where they were coming from or what they were. I mean, I think you've done a fantastic job. Being open with the public is our best bet. And as far as an operating loss, I hate to see us as a board here not help the hospital out to keep that project going, the future, because that is the future of our hospital, is that project, really. And I think it's nothing to do with how you manage the hospital. You've done a phenomenal job that way. And I just, you just ran into COVID and it kind of like kicked your ass for a little bit. So I think as a board with our fund balance can probably help the hospital back.
Well, when people work together, usually good things happen.
Yeah, that's right.
And
We did it
they can
before.
happen when we work together. But it just takes a lot of study to do it the right way.
Yeah, we've done it before.
So I think the
That's how we got
challenge moving forward is there is a critical workforce shortage for healthcare workers. That's getting lost in the kind of the larger debate right now. We had a workforce healthcare issue, and that hasn't gone away. COVID has made it worse. So at some point, when we get through the next few months or weeks, we're gonna have to bring the conversation back there. Because if we can't get it back there, we're gonna have a hard time staffing what we consider as basic services with people who have skills like Lisa. And I think when we met in West Leiden, I had made reference to Ryan releasing Lisa so she could go back to work. There was a little bit of tongue in cheek, but not too much. There was some real truth there. So Lisa, I have an application.
It wasn't right, and Joe.
All right, we'll just do it quietly.
We'll give you Joan. Joan can come work for us.
That's his turn.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go on to Ashley, please.
Okay, so as Jerry said, COVID has certainly gotten bad here in Lewis County in the last 2 weeks. As of today, we have 129 active cases. We have 8 that are currently hospitalized. We've had 21 hospitalized so far in September. We have seen 3 recent pediatric admissions, which is not something we have seen before. So that's different. Let's see, we have 362 on quarantine. We had 35 cases yesterday. So that is a daily case number that we saw back at the peak of this in December and January. There's no particular outbreak or cluster. It's fairly widespread across the entire county as far as what we're seeing. I do want to talk a little bit about schools. We had 24 school cases last week, 18 so far for Monday and Tuesday this week. And that's not counting our afternoon testing that has been done. We have seen 6 cases so far of spread in school. Again, that is something that's new. We had not seen that last year. They are seeing this throughout the entire country and state. So another important thing to note is we quarantined 262 students so far this school year. So it is imperative that students are wearing their masks while they're sitting at their desks 3 feet apart. If both students have masks on, we do not need to quarantine those students. So that's an important step for the schools to take. We're continuing to work with the schools on a daily basis, trying to keep our children in person learning, because we know that is the best for them. We really don't want to see a 3rd school year plagued by the COVID pandemic. On the vaccine front, we are seeing an increase in individuals seeking the vaccine, whether that's due to the healthcare mandate. Yes, I think some of that, but we are seeing other individuals present for vaccination as well. We're continuing to do the community clinics out and about, as well as offering vaccines by appointment in our office. We are offering the 3rd dose for immunocompromised, so I get people that are confused about this all the time. So there's what we refer to as the third dose, and then the booster vaccine. We are doing the third dose for immunocompromised individuals, which only needs to be 28 days after their second dose of the vaccine. We are not currently doing the booster dose because the booster dose is not yet fully recommended. We are anticipating that it will be recommended for those 65 and above, and those identified as being at high risk for COVID-19. Once we are actively planning for administering those booster doses, but I think the media has people thinking that it's approved right now, they need to get it. We are inundated with calls wanting their third dose or their booster dose. So as soon as that is available, we will be making it known to the public exactly who should seek that booster dose and when they should seek that booster dose. The FDA is expected to approve the use of the Pfizer vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds in October. Again, this will help with quarantining in schools because fully vaccinated individuals, including students, don't need to quarantine. So we will be working with the schools again to best serve that younger population to get them immunized. And as of September 9th, 57% of our adult population had at least one dose of the vaccine. So we do continue to lag behind, but we are slowly making progress on that front.
60%
I
was,
see you have a question.
sorry.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say 60% of the population was a number that we had thrown out kind of early on as a target for our demographic. So, you know, inching closer to that is a good thing.
Yes.
I watch the numbers and they confuse me sometimes.
Okay.
Like, of course, I look at Diana and I do look at Krogan too, because they're, but like, when Diana got below double digits, I thought, you know, finally, and then all of a sudden they're back up to 15. So my curiosity is this like is it typically a family that makes these numbers jump like that?
Quite often, we will have entire families test positive at once, or within a couple of days of each other. So that is very much possible.
And with Krogan, they went from 15 down to 8 or 9 or something like that. They was kind of like just the opposite. So I assume family
Yeah, and so it all
is
depends
sharing.
when we release people, and that's symptom based, as well as ensuring that there's 10 days of isolation served.
And you said you're working with the schools, and I assume that's a good relationship with the school systems?
It is, yep. We meet regularly, we're meeting again tomorrow to discuss just this. I think it ramped up a lot faster than any of us anticipated, as far as the number of cases and also having school spread, so. I think having those open lines of communication are important to continue to. Yep. Did you have a question?
I do. You talked about the third dose and you talked about booster.
Yep.
Do you know the difference between those two?
Yep. So the third dose is only for immunocompromised individuals, and that is approved and recommended.
So would that be like a booster
Or
not?
No, the reason the reason I'm using the two different names is because they're for two different populations.
Oh, I see, okay.
The third dose is strictly for severely and moderately immunocompromised.
So I would be a candidate for the third dose.
You would what?
I would be a candidate for the third dose.
Okay, yep,
So I wouldn't need a booster.
correct.
Okay.
Correct,
All right,
yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Ashley, on the booster shots, is there any information out there on what the reaction to it is? Is it more moderate than the second shot, or?
I've not seen that data, and it's not been widely distributed, because it's not fully recommended yet. So Pfizer is doing this based on data, of potentially waning immunity for those specific populations. The reason it's been delayed so much is because the CDC is saying we still have very good efficacy against hospitalization and death, which is ultimately what the vaccine is trying to prevent.
Actually, if you could, one thing I'm hearing out in the public is television puts on St. Lawrence County so many cases today, Jefferson County, Lewis County.
Yep.
Well, we have 10, let's say. Now, when you take in, our population's 1/5 of those other things, because what I'm hearing is, well, we only got 5 or 10, they got 25, 30, or 50. That isn't correlated, right? You've got to multiply ours by something to put it on a per capita, right? Equal with them?
Right, yes.
Because
Yeah,
a
you
lot of the
can't,
people without masks out there are saying, well, we don't need to wear them because we're only getting, we're so far
Yeah,
down.
see the true picture.
So that's not right, the true picture, right? Yeah, that's what I'm
right,
talking
our
about.
percent positivity is,
That's the number you should be looking at.
yes.
Yes.
And not even necessarily, the day-to-day, I track it on a 7-day rolling average, and for last week, I believe, here. 6.9,
And that's not good.
no, yes.
How is the vaccination going with the school-age children, 12 and above, at this point? They can get a shot.
Yeah, so I have data for 15 to 19-year-olds, and they are 56% of that population is vaccinated. So they're doing better than our 20 to 50-year-olds. So,
Two things, percent positivity, New York City is 3%, so we're more than twice them.
Yeah.
But then just my question is, how's your staff doing? I know we recently just had a couple more come to you, so you guys fully staffed, or you?
we're making plans for this surge. Obviously, we need to increase staffing due to more case investigations and quarantining, planning for the booster doses, continuing to provide first and second doses. So trying to balance it all. Yes, we are bringing some more temporary staff on and asking some county staff that had done it before, the quarantining calls, to assist again. Yes.
So are you giving a third dose at the clinic, or do they come and go to public health?
Call and come to public health. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. And the pharmacies are also doing the third dose
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Okay.
for immunocompromised. You don't need anything from your doctor. All you need to say is that you are moderately to severe immunocompromised.
Okay.
Is it the same manufacturer as the first two that you got? Or
Yep. Yes.
does it have to be, or can you get whatever you want?
It's recommended that it's the same one. I don't know that you can go and,
If you got Moderna, you don't want to get Pfizer, is that what you're saying?
correct.
Ashley and I have been talking about doing a press briefing like we did last year when things started to ramp up on Thursday. We also would like to release some new data about vaccinations and folks that are vaccinated, the percentage of the folks that are getting sick that are vaccinated, the percentage of those that are hospitalized that are vaccinated. And initial looks at that data suggest that it's very favorable. It really shows the effect of the vaccine. And so, we want to be transparent and get out with some of that information. So what I'm thinking is we'll try to pull something, a press event together for Thursday. That'll give us an opportunity to talk with the schools. I want to talk with you guys more about schools, a bit in executive session. But, you know, we would have quite a bit to announce to the public. You know, their doses and the vaccine data and, you know, with the surge in cases. So I'm thinking we're gonna try to pull something together as, you know, we did last, you know, the last time we were surging in kind of December, January. Any legislator that wants to be a part of that is certainly more than welcome. So we're aiming to pull something together.
So is the gist of this going to be that vaccinated people are far less far less?
I don't want to speak because our data is getting, we've had a small sample set, except for the last week, which has really increased our sample set. So, but yeah, in the single digit percentage for folks that are vaccinated and end up having issues. So that's a good thing.
That's a good thing to point that out, and it would perhaps help Jerry's cause as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else?
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Ashley.
With, you know, what you're following and stuff like that, are you finding, I mean, as far as the people unvaccinated, when they're coming down with it, it's like it was before, where more than likely it's gonna be worse on them? And
I think Ashley would say this, and I know what she would say, we've been talking every day, this variant, people are much sicker than they were before. We had a lot of asymptomatic folks before, much less this round. If you're positive, you're sick, more than likely.
okay.
Anecdotally, I can tell you that from newborns to, you know, the 65 plus, people are sick, people are really sick. COVID,
The unvaccinated more than the vaccinated.
yes, but, you know, all around, it's getting bad, it's gonna get worse.
Ashley, one thing you didn't talk about, it just came to my mind. We're getting into the season for regular flu shots too. And if I'm correct, you've got to wait 3 or 4 weeks between the shots. Can you explain that a little bit better?
No, you can get them at the same time.
You can get the booster for COVID and the regular flu shot at the same time?
So I don't have any formal recommendations for the booster for COVID. So I can't tell you specifically if we can get the flu.
You know, that's the thing I was wondering, because people are asking, should I get my regular flu shot? Or should I wait and get my booster? And then what's the time frame in between?
So I don't have
You don't have that.
formal, because I don't have formal recommendations. The ACIP hasn't come out.
Okay, they haven't come out yet. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
And they provide us that kind of information in regard to
Yeah.
how you administer the vaccine,
Sure.
time frames, contraindications, all of that.
Okay.
So that hasn't come out for the booster vaccine. I do know that you can get your first or second vaccine for COVID simultaneously with the flu shot.
Oh, okay, good.
And yes, we do have flu vaccine. We are encouraging people to get the flu shot. I'll be honest with you, we haven't planned our flu clinics because I've been trying to ramp up for the surge that we're dealing with. But yes, we realized that we need to get information out there for people. But they can also, you know, go to the pharmacy or their doctor's office to receive it.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready for benefits.
Appropriating funds in the Office for the Aging Department accounts in the amount of $18,664 for additional grant funding related to COVID-19.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Any nays?
Accepting COVID-19 vaccine response grant funds in the amount of $68,134.51 from New York State Department of Health.
Any questions? All in favor? Any nays?
Approving renewal agreement between Lewis County Public Health Agency and Bernie Bus Service, Inc. for transportation services required for the preschool special education program for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022.
Additional dollar values that go with this or not?
It's on the resolution.
I remember that. Okay.
They didn't change from last year.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Appointing member to Health Services Advisory Board for the term of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2025.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays?
Transfer funds in public health department accounts in the amount of $250,000 to an appropriate expenditure account.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Authorizing acceptance of temporary assistance for needy families allocation for non-residential domestic violence services in the amount of $25,000, an agreement between Lewis County Department of Social Services and Lewis County Opportunities, Inc. for a term of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Amending compensation plan with reference to Department of Social Services to abolish one full-time homemaker position at grade 10 and create one full-time case aide position at grade 12.
Any questions? And all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Appropriating funds for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act in the amount of $28,614.40.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
And then the motions, I have a motion to authorize Social Services Commissioner Jennifer Jones to refill one full-time secretary to the commissioner position effective immediately.
Any questions? You make the, oh, I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Usually I say that.
Motion to authorize Social Services Commissioner Jennifer Jones to refill one full-time caseworker position effective immediately due to resignation.
Any questions? I'll make the motion.
Yeah, I'll second.
Motion to authorize Social Services Commissioner Jennifer Jones to refill one full-time fiscal manager position effective immediately due to pending resignation on December 31st, 2021.
And I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Make a good team over there.
So I'm going to ask that we go into executive session, and it would be legal matters pertaining to the Lewis County Health Services System. Is that right? Any corrections? Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second.